can answer the question, Judge. You can't handle the truth.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Rubs the lotion on its skin or else it gets the hose again.
Welcome to After Hours AM, The Criminal Code, with your hosts, Joel Sturgis, Eric Olsen, and Dr. Clarissa Cole.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this edition of After Hours AM, The Criminal Code. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Eric Olsen and
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
So how the heck is everybody doing?
I am actually doing pretty well. We've had a little bit of seasonal weirdness with whatnot, and had a little bit of a scare with my mother, which is, my God, unfortunately not unusual. She's fine, it turned out. She, we won't go into the details, but let's just say she was straining, and a place that sometimes people strain, and passed out.
Oh God, no!
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so they had, and they couldn't figure out what the hell they thought it was. Was it a seizure? Did she have a stroke?
Oh man!
I mean, it was none of the above. It was about as benign as it could have been. It was like, Mom, you better quit straining.
Well, you know,
nothing to strain over.
What's interesting about that, though, is that those particular muscles actually press on the vagal nerve.
That's exactly what it was called.
Okay.
Yeah, they press on the vagal nerve and can cause you to pass out. But the other kind of weird part about it is if you are having a heart arrhythmia problem, if you strain as though something like that is happening, a lot of times you can bring your arrhythmia back in check.
Oh,
well, that is super weird. Now, just to finish it off, due to the oddness of the situation and the fact that it turned out to be, as benign as it could have been, she did have an actual real seizure a few weeks ago and had seemingly been kind of hung over from it in a sense, and hadn't been talking as much and just kind of been just a little off, even more off than usual. And this event seemed to have rectified. She was talking more, moving better, paying more attention, more focused than she's been since before the seizure. So, explain that one.
Wow.
Well, like that I cannot explain. That's like a miracle.
It's just bizarre.
It's holy intervention right there.
It may be.
It might be a miracle. A real miracle. You just
I hope so. That would be so nice. Anyway, so cool. She's doing much better and everything's okay.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that.
So tonight, guys, we are covering Femme Fatale version 2.0, and we are going to be using for source material at thecriminalcode.com. So if you're listening to us live and you are able to do so, hop on over during the second hour, of course, top of the second hour, like always, hop on over to thecriminalcode.com. Follow along. That is Dr. Cole's very own website. There you can check out all the cool goodness that is all things true crime, plus get the doctor's notes, and it's really, really darn tootin' cool. Again, thecriminalcode.com. So there you go.
Thank you. Yeah,
Huge
we've had
plug.
some. Thank you.
Big old plug.
We've had some very interesting cases that I'm excited to get to in the second hour, because it's this whole sort of evolving realm of the criminal mind. But before we do that, I do have some headlines for you guys.
I love the headlines, and one of them has to do with Nevada, and I found that one particularly humorous. I can't believe that happened, but again, these headlines, like each and every week, are brought to you by Dr. Cole and thecriminalcode.com. So yet another great reason to check out that website. And if you're listening live, via the internet. You must either be at one of the many, many affiliates that are carrying us, but you also have to be listening to the America's-Most-Haunted.com. And if you're not, shame, double shame. There you can pop on over there, listen to some past shows, listen to us live, but even cooler yet, read the articles that Eric himself writes for each and every show. And like, for instance, this show, he borrows heavily from Dr. Cole. So you get kind of both in one package. So that's also awesome that way too. So there, I just want to get both plugs in. Okay, moving along.
Whoa, thanks.
I know. Over there at the news desk with Dr. Cole, what is the high strangeness in true crime?
Well, you know what? I think we should start with the Nevada one because that is pretty much just breaking this morning. It's one of those headlines that you read it and you go,
"Oh, yes.
What?" So, yeah. So if for those of you, you know what? I hope everybody knows what yesterday was, but in case you didn't,
Super Tuesday.
It was midterm election time, right? Where everybody was supposed to turn out and vote. And a lot of people did, including in Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
And in Nevada, there was a man running for office. He is a brothel owner, not just one brothel, though, but like five brothels in Nevada. His name is Dennis Hoff. He is a Republican, and he won Nevada's state assembly seat.
Well,
but
good for him.
There was a problem with that.
What's the problem?
He's dead.
Oh.
Yeah, because not only was he a brothel owner, but he was willing to party himself to death.
He was a dead politician that won.
Yeah.
He said, "I'm gonna party till I literally can't party anymore."
Was he legitimately on the ballot, or was it a write-in?
No, he was legitimately on the ballot, okay, and he was found dead by. This story cannot get better. I'm sorry. He was found dead by Ron Jeremy.
No, not the hedgehog. He found him.
Yes, who went to wake him for a meeting.
Dude, wake up!
Yeah,
stop partying.
Ron Jeremy. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. It's like you cannot make this up. He went, and this is what the news story says. A friend who went to wake him for, Ron Jeremy and a friend who went to wake him for a meeting hours after his weekend-long 72nd birthday party.
The man was 77 and partied like a rock star and died?
72, but still.
All weekend.
All weekend long, just partied like crazy? Oh, man, what a way to go. But I would not want to be woken up under any circumstances by Ron Jeremy, though. No, I'm
So
good.
well said.
I'm good.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm not even going to spoil it for those of you who don't know who Ron Jeremy is. If you're out there, Google him.
Yeah, he's got quite the body of work.
Yeah.
Oh, it is wholly fitting. It couldn't be much more fitting.
And this person, Mr. Hoff, the one who was still on the ballot 3 weeks after his death, won with 68.3% of the vote.
So had he just been able to survive the weekend, which he clearly didn't, he would have been in, what was he running for, Senate? What was he?
State Assembly.
State Assembly. He was prematurely partying. Yeah, he must have been prematurely partying, and he had a premature exit. It sounds.
He did, and it's. I was like, how could they still keep him on the ballot? You know, that was what really confused me. So I did kind of dig a little deeper because I wanted to know what was going on. And it turns out that the GOP, he was Republican, sort of encouraged people in the state. You know, once news broke there, people did hear. I thought maybe no one knew. People heard about it, but the GOP really encouraged people to vote for him because they just didn't want the seat to go Democrat.
Oh, isn't that just disingenuous, though?
I mean, what?
Whatever happened to serving the people? You know,
right? I don't even understand now what happens now.
So you're going to have a 72-year-old partying pimp, because that's what he called himself.
Yep.
America's pimp.
Well, pimping ain't easy, man. Pimping is not easy.
Self-styled. He's the Trump from Pahrump, which is the name of the town he's from, in Nevada. And the guy parties all weekend to death with hookers and Ron Jeremy. What could be more appropriate? And then to just top it off, dude's voted into office. I'll tell you what, that Democratic challenger probably doesn't feel too good about herself.
No, even a dead man beats her.
Yes. And everyone knew he was dead. I mean, such a crazy story. And honestly, you guys would be better to answer this than I am. I'm not totally up on politics here.
Okay.
So if people vote him in with that percentage of the vote, but he's dead and obviously cannot hold that seat. So do they just throw in the nearest Republican? That seems odd to me.
I don't know. You would think that there'd be. I'm not learned, but Eric over there has a master's in political science. So, Eric, what would be the protocol with a dead politician being voted off? A special election? How would they go about rectifying that?
Well, every state has different rules, so that would be number one. I don't know what the rules of Nevada are. It would depend. It could require, yes, a special election. I'm guessing maybe not in this case because it's, it's a relatively low down the scale type of office. I mean, we're talking the state assembly. I don't know. There's probably quite a few of them, even in Nevada, which doesn't have a ton of people other than Las Vegas and Reno, basically. So anyway, the other way would be for the governor typically to be able to appoint someone.
Gotcha.
To that
makes sense.
And I'm guessing that might be what's happening, but I don't know for sure. I know in other instances, it's either one or the other. Either it's a special election or someone, usually the governor, would be allowed to appoint someone into that position.
I interviewed Dennis Hoff years ago because they claimed that the Bunny Ranch was haunted. Mm-hmm. And his catchphrase was, of course, pimpin' ain't easy during the whole show. I'm like, well, exactly. Why is this so hard, Dennis?
Well, the way he became known, and probably part of his appeal and part of why he did get the votes that he got, even in death, is because one of his brothels was featured on
Showtime. Yeah, the Bunny Ranch.
Bunny Ranch.
Yeah. Yeah.
As though that's actual pimping too, by the way. Give me a break, dude.
No, it's not really.
You never met a real pimp?
No.
Unfortunately, I've met quite a few. And just because of my day job.
I was going to say, you better qualify
don't let your brains
that.
run amok there. Yeah. it's very interesting.
I met a lot of pimps, and it's a hobby of mine.
You know what, though? I want to really, because this is not really a crime-related story, and I'm hoping that you will let me just get this one in really quick because it's also political. So in Lima, Peru, so it's a small town in Peru, a small town in the Andes. A man named Hitler was running, and his campaign slogan read, "Hitler returns and Hitler with the people."
Oh, my Lord.
Yes, and his name was Hitler Alba, and he said, "I'm the good Hitler."
I'm the good Hitler versus the other guy that wasn't so good.
But the story gets better.
It is.
Yeah. Alba's campaign came under attack this year by a man named, wait for it, Lenin.
It's World War II all over again. Millions of deaths.
Oh, good Lord.
Millions of deaths. Rampaging across Europe.
Hitler Alba and Lenin Vladimir Rodriguez Valverde. So,
oh my goodness.
Jeez, say that 10 times fast.
That's cross-cultural pollination going on there.
It is, and I guess it's very common in that area of the world to use European names, and that they don't always know, what they might evoke, because last year Osama bin Laden was named to Peru's national juvenile football team.
No.
Yeah. This is by NPR, by the way. I'm not just getting this off of The Onion or something.
Oh, I haven't.
Poor Peru. Yeah. Poor Peru.
Yeah, got issues.
It does.
Cocaine and really short people.
Yeah, and horrible names like Hitler and Lenin. Sure.
But they have cool flutes.
They do have some cool flutes and good mountains too. If you're into that.
So this, I wanted to kind of roll this into the story because we had covered the brothel.
Sure.
And I feel like this is kind of related. in a very weird way. And I legitimately want to know your actual opinions on this. I know it's kind of a funny story, but it does bring up a lot of questions. So in Houston, officials, they have all these measures. Houston officials block brothel from featuring sex dolls.
So it's a brothel. Yeah. It's a brothel. Now, kids, cover your ears. This is a family show, after all, that features dolls that you make whoopee with rather than human beings.
Yeah, no people, no. So it's not technically what we would refer to as a brothel. Right. It's not prostitution. Correct.
No. So why would that be illegal?
Well, so the mayor, Sylvester Turner, told reporters that the vote was just a modification of an existing city ordinance and wasn't targeted at any specific business. And basically, he said you cannot engage in those type of activities with any inanimate objects at a business. So people will still be able to buy the dolls there, but they
take them home.
They won't be able to go into the rooms and do
I'll have mine to go.
Yeah. Defile your doll at home. Don't do it in the business.
There will be no eating here.
But originally it was meant to. They had all these rooms, and it was meant for people to be able to rent the dolls.
That is just sick and twisted, anyway.
Well, of course it's sick and twisted.
It's
but how
wrong.
far? Do you agree though that it should be banned? It's interesting to me.
I think it's very deviant in a lot of ways, and it's a piece of plastic. What
Did they? I guess the first question would be: did they already have a law?
Yeah.
Against sexual interaction with
inanimate
objects.
It doesn't.
Was that already a rule?
It doesn't sound like it was. It sounds like they did modify a city ordinance. So there was an existing city ordinance that was probably something about no sort of public indecency, is my guess.
Yeah, well,
and then they modified it so that this business couldn't set up shop.
What kind of loser would decide to go get it out of the doll anyway versus a real person? Come on.
You know what, though? I mean, I totally get what you're saying, but there are people out there that are not as socially adept as you or I, and also there are people that might not want to catch diseases or spread diseases themselves. I don't think that it's necessarily that bad of a thing. I think people look at it through a moral lens, but I'm kind of wondering why. Nobody is being hurt here.
I understand what you're saying, but I just find
it's a victimless crime.
It is a victimless crime. It's just the only thing that's victimed is the plastic. But still, it just, I don't know. I guess you're right. I am looking at it through that moral, almost puritanical lens, going, that's wrong. But really, quite honestly,
I mean, from a libertarian standpoint,
I think they should be able,
people should be able to do whatever they want, as long as it doesn't hurt other people, right?
Yes.
And that's general libertarian approach, right?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there is a moral element to this, or they wouldn't have blocked it.
Correct.
Now, other side of the coin is from a financial standpoint. Do we know what they were going to charge for that experience?
No, I don't. I don't know what they were going to charge, but my guess is it would be obviously significant. Because for people that don't know, one of these dolls, the high grade silicone type dolls, is incredibly expensive. I'm talking like car expensive.
Wow.
So yeah, so being able to rent one and go into a room for an hour, it would actually allow people to interact with them that would not be able to otherwise, because it is cost prohibitive. So my guess is it would be far less than that. But I mean, I guess in argument to that, I would say, who cares?
I guess
Does it
you're right.
matter?
Who
cares how much they make? $20,000 an hour. Who cares?
Yeah, let your freak flag fly.
If someone wants to spend that, let them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I was just thinking making the comparison to if it were a human. Is the cost the same? across the board, as if the partner were a human being. Now, obviously, I'm guessing there are not brothels that are illegal anyway in Houston. There's not a whole lot of places where they're illegal. So I'm just curious as to the economics of it. I guess ultimately, really what it comes down to, I think, is that besides the simple unseemliness of it, I think the underlying thing is we are saving people from themselves. And
nanny state.
I was like, well, that's not our job.
This is about as nanny state as it gets.
Yeah.
It really is. It is super nanny state. You're saving people who might otherwise be forced to interact with actual human beings who now don't have to do so because they can interact with these very lifelike sex dolls. So is that good, bad, or indifferent?
In my opinion, mostly it's bad, because people that don't interact well with humans, that do have social issues, maybe they have disabilities or sexual issues that they don't want a human person finding out about, well, now we're condemning them to that rejection unless they can spend a car's amount of money on one of these dolls. So I'm like, man, who are we to say that they should be able to or not? I mean, as long as the doll does not, and this is where I would draw the line, and I do think a line should be drawn, as long as the dolls do not represent something that is underage or childlike. That would be where I would draw the line. Yeah.
But let's take your argument, the next step. Why would that matter?
It's rubber.
Because that does go against existing law and existing morals. And since I do happen to, while I'm talking about pimps, I happen to know a lot of pedophiles too. And
you just know them all.
And I also know, because in Japan they actually tried a pilot study where they did exactly that. They took these very lifelike sex dolls they made child versions of them for pedophiles, hoping that if they gave them to existing pedophiles, that it would stop them from preying on human children. But what we know from research with people that have pedophilia, the more they act out those urges, the stronger their fantasies get. So it actually increases the urge to find human victims. So it was a horrible thing to do. So that's mainly why I'm against that idea.
Not a replacement, in other words.
No, it is not a replacement.
It doesn't satisfy the urge in any way. It intensifies the urge.
It intensifies it because they are satisfying it. They are gratifying it with something that is childlike.
Gotcha. So, gotcha, man. That's as far as renting.
It's thorny.
Getting 7 minutes in heaven with one of these dolls. Hey, if you want to rent it for 7 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, whatever, that's your business, not mine. You're making your money. You spent the way you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just having a hard time seeing what's wrong with it, and it's bothering me that people are imposing a moral standard because I don't feel, at least not as of yet, that there is research to suggest that interacting with these dolls makes someone a hazard to society.
Here's the deal, though. I mean, we do that all the time. I mean, look at marijuana, for instance. We impose the moral high ground almost maniacally in this country. In fact, we do.
God, you're right.
And look how it works. Oh, look, it doesn't work.
Canada is more free than we are, and we are the home of the brave, land of the free.
And serial killers here. Yeah, I was like, we have the highest crime, and we are also the most puritanical. People just refuse to believe that those things are related, but I'm telling you right now, they are. So they're related.
They are related.
The more you ban, the more you tell people no, the more people feel concerned. You know, that's the thing. Like, some people that feel really, like, think about it this way. There's a lot of kids, 18, 19, 20-year-olds that feel ostracized from society because they're awkward. Let's say they're and obviously I know they're not all like this. I apologize for invoking a stereotype, but let's say they're a gamer type, you know, that sits in front of a computer all day, doesn't interact with people, but desperately wants a girlfriend. So he could go to one of these places and kind of start figuring that out, or he could take a gun somewhere, you know, like, just Why? Why do we have to deny everything?
True. Well, because
this type of person?
we're the nanny state. We're the worst at it. I mean, the United States is absolutely a 100% nanny state. Look at the laws that we have. Everything's bad for you. Don't do it. If you're going to do it, we're going to make sure you don't do it. And if you do it, we're going to heavily fine you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and make something illegal that wasn't before. So this business was ready to be set up, and then all of a sudden they changed the ordinance.
To be fair to the United States, our mutual home, it really depends on the category as far as what countries are the most restrictive. Mm-hmm. We are perhaps the most restrictive of theoretically open, free countries. We got a lot of rules, and of course we leave a lot of it up to local or regional. But, obviously in the Islamic countries, there's a whole big set of rules that we don't worry a whole lot about. Even in Western Europe, very progressive Western Europe, I mean, the completely opposite end of the spectrum, there's all kinds of rules against, GMOs. You got a lot of environmental things, no soft drinks, and on and on and on. So, I mean, there's a lot of directions it can go. I think I've been thinking about this as you guys were talking, as far as, all right, so Houston decides this is unsavory and they don't want it for whatever reason. It seems to me it would make a way more sense to do it through zoning.
Yeah.
Right. Because now that's a tangential thing. You can obliquely do it that way. Now you're not addressing it head on and having to deal with the really thorny issues. If you deal, cities can zone anything they want, anywhere they want. I mean, it's pretty much open-ended. You can do whatever you want. No, there will be no sex doll humping on this area of Houston.
Yeah, go down by the adult bookstore if you all run that kind of business. Down that area.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That would make
I agree.
sense, right?
I totally agree. I feel like if they're going to have the other types of stores, like you were just saying, Joel, like the adult bookstore, if they're going to have that, come on. Yeah. Why are you drawing the line here? It makes no sense.
Exactly. Anyhow, moving along there from that strange story, because, we could go all night about that.
That's true.
Where would you like to go next?
I'm only laughing because we were just talking about the nanny state and how we have all these rules. But you know what? You know who has no rules?
Who?
Florida.
Florida has no rules. That's right. We've only been discussing that for, a couple of years now.
Exactly. And it's not that Florida itself. Yeah, it's not that Florida itself has no rules. There's just people in Florida. They
disregard the rules, is what you're saying.
They do. So there is someone that is a yacht owner down in Florida. And this yacht is named the Miami Vice.
Yes.
That's amazing. And it is a 91-foot yacht.
Whoa, that's a big one.
I know. How big is that? Like, can you guys...
91 feet.
I know, but what is that?
Almost
like
a football field. A football field.
Right?
Yeah.
That's humongous. Okay, so...
I'm sorry, a half a football field. Still plenty big.
It's really, really huge. So,
yeah, it's like 50 yards.
This is not... We're not just talking about like some, tiny little ferry boat here, okay? This is a large boat. Now, the person that owned this boat wanted to hire somebody to take basically, some cruises, a unique charter experience, right? And the Miami Vice is owned mostly by TM Yachting Charter LLC. And this person named Mr. Malbert Kayla, he admitted that he didn't really get a license to operate it as a charter.
Yeah.
And then when you when you
oversight.
operate it as a charter, you actually have to. I didn't realize this. You have to hire a specific type of captain if you do it as a charter. So
have like a license and stuff.
Yeah,
but like a specific one, I guess, to run a charter. But anyway, the person that he hired didn't have a charter captain's license or a captain's license at all.
Oh, and he was blind.
And he just liked to.
And it was a 3-hour tour.
He liked to frequently snort cocaine. Is what he.
Oh, wow, that old yarn. Come on.
Until he was blind.
Yes, and so they hired a man named Alvarez, and they actually have video of him where Malbert Kayla is saying, The captain takes vitamins and he's snorting coke at the wheel.
And that's exactly where it all ties together. That's where Dennis Hoff died.
No, it is not. Yes, and Ron Jeremy had to swim out.
That's right.
No, so Marbury Kayla takes this out on a charter. He basically says, yes, you can have a unique charter experience, basically pay me, right, to go out on this huge yacht with this guy that likes to snort cocaine and can't drive a boat. So two people that were on this, so he basically took this yacht and grounded it on an island, first of all.
Oops.
Yeah, well, that was how he parked.
I've seen a sitcom with the same premise right here, right now, and it ends up with a guy named Gilligan and the skipper.
It wasn't marooned there. Now it was kind of grounded there, and so a couple of the passengers decided that they were going to get off the boat and swim.
Sure, I would. Why not?
Because you're there, so they're swimming and they're behind the yacht when they're swimming.
Well, that might not be a good idea.
Yeah.
Never a good idea.
Never a good idea. So at one point, Alvarez decided that, you know what? I got to not ground this yacht. We got to get off of this sandbar here. Turns on the engines and someone got sucked in.
Oh, no, not the old engine sucked in gag.
Yes, deep lacerations in the head, chest, neck, pelvis, and torso, consistent with a large yacht propeller repeatedly striking him.
They're dead, obviously. The people died.
Well, one of them is dead.
One guy died.
Because the captain never checked to make sure all the passengers were on board, didn't have eyes behind the boat, didn't check before he turned on the engines even. He didn't do any of the things that a regular charter captain would do.
Busy snorting the coke.
And being grounded on a sandbar.
He had more pressing matters to attend to, like snorting coke and getting up a sandbar.
Yes.
Safety for people is just a secondary thought.
And my God, just getting away for one moment, the kind of sort of humorousness in some ways of this story. What a horrible, it was a father and son that were swimming.
That'd be a horrible way to go.
And the son essentially, tried to swim away and got out of the way, but watched his father get
he watched him get mutated? Oh.
Yep.
So what's going to happen to the Miami Vice yacht owner now?
I don't know what's going to happen to the owner. I know that they're being charged with, at least the captain is being charged with some sort of manslaughter, I believe.
He should be.
Maybe. I don't know.
I think it should be negligent homicide. Sounds
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so Marbury Kayla, here it is. Marbury Kayla, that's the one that partially owned the boat. In federal court, it was charged with misconduct or neglect of a ship officer that resulted in the death of an individual.
Whoa!
Wow, that's
Heavy.
Serious.
Yeah,
that's real serious.
Yeah, so and it looks like Alvarez also is pleading guilty to the same charge. I have no idea what the sentence for that charge is, but
yeah, I guess we'll find out as the story unfolds.
Yeah,
we'll see if it treads water or not.
Oh, speaking of water, have you ever gone surfing on an Uber?
Oh, no, I have not gone surfing on Uber, but Halloween night, I did witness someone surfing on a car, but it was not an Uber. But
no way.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
I did. Actually, the wife saw it before I did. She called to my attention, and they were surfing on a car. They were doing that.
I'm such a mom without being a mom.
Who hasn't done that, though? I've done it.
I haven't done that, and I would absolutely step in front of that car and stop them and say, "What the heck are you doing?"
It's a good time. It's a horrible time. Don't try it. It's horrible.
Absolutely don't try it. It's all these, and what is with these people doing these stupid challenges where they hop out of a car while the car is moving and then dance alongside the car while somebody takes it. Please stop doing this stupid crap, because guess what? No future employer is going to want to see that video and go, "Oh yeah, that's the man to handle our hedge fund.
That's my guy."
That's the guy. We like his total lack of judgment. We need him part of our team.
That's our cybersecurity head.
Yeah, that's our surgeon for the day. Give me trust
me,
unless you're already in your 70s, don't do this.
So
now, if you're already there, maybe.
So now the kid, this teenager, I'm going to assume is a teenager,
Yeah,
was surfing
15.
on the Uber, and the Uber driver allowed this to happen.
Yes. Well, the Uber driver took a bribe for it. He took money for it.
Wow. So an extra charge is applied if you call up Uber and say, hey, I want car surf. There is an extra,
God.
surfboard
This is
fee.
one of the most tragic stories. Honestly, it was a couple of 3 drunk kids, and they were way too young to be drunk. 15-year-old kids, 3 drunk kids calling Uber. So first of all, I know several people who used to drive Uber, so I know the rules related to it. You are not even supposed to pick up kids that are underage without a parent's consent. You're not even supposed to pick them up.
Oh,
You're
so
supposed
this
to. You're
guy.
supposed to. Especially if if there's alcohol involved, you're supposed to call authorities. That's in the Uber contract.
The Uber
So
guy
he shouldn't have even picked them up.
disregarded all of
it.
the protocols to get the extra cash.
Yeah,
Now-
sure, young kids, get in.
Yeah.
And they offer him $70 if at a stoplight, he'd let them climb onto the car's roof at an intersection so that they could car surf as the vehicle took off.
And wow, well,
Because they recorded Snapchat.
where the heck are the parents during all this too?
Good Lord. I was
know?
thinking,
At
obviously,
15.
you guys know that parents can't be present all the time, so who knows what happened there. But the thought that, as a, prospective parent, that somebody that is entrusted with the safety of your children.
Yeah.
They're like a taxi driver, an Uber driver. They're supposed to look at the kids and go, no, put your money away. And you're lucky I'm taking you home without calling authorities.
True.
And I want to see you get in the house safe. I want to see you unlock the door, get in the house, and close the door and lock it. That's who I am. Absolutely will I not do that. And second, I'm probably lecturing them the entire way I drive them home.
So the
I'm
kid,
such a buzzkill.
You really are. But
I know.
the kid dies though, so they needed someone like you
fell
there.
off.
Then they'd still be alive if that were the case.
One of the boys died because he fell off. And actually, this is what happened. Do you remember Natasha Richardson?
Yes.
Yes.
This is what
Actress.
happened to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what happened to Liam Neeson's former wife. This is what happened to her. She was not car surfing. She was skiing, but she fell, right, and hit her head, and that's what happened to this kid. He fell and hit his head on the pavement. She hit her head on hard snow, and it hurt, but she was still with it.
Yeah.
The kid was still with it. Took the kid home. Same thing happened to Natasha Richardson. She found herself getting very, very sleepy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just so y'all know, what that usually means
That's
is
bad.
that there's bleeding.
Yeah.
There's bleeding in your brain. It can be stopped.
If
You
you're in the
need to go
hospital.
into a hospital right away, but it can be stopped. So if Natasha Richardson had gone into a hospital, they probably could have saved her. Instead of going to dinner, they just said, "Oh, sure, go ahead and sleep." And they came back and she had passed away. This kid went to sleep and he had died in his sleep.
Man, that is so sad. So sad. It's like my dad used to tell me growing up, there's 2 things that kill every time: speed and stupidity.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, obviously the Uber part is new, and what a total and utter lack of judgment.
I know, right?
Come on, Uber, you're hiring idiots. But, when they're hiring, I don't know, how many people? Thousands? How many? Tens of thousands?
Oh, easily, yeah. I bet they are.
Hundreds of thousands? Yeah.
At least tens of thousands, yeah.
These poor kids not knowing any better, being under the influence, it definitely
they're 15.
falls in the Uber driver. That
Oh,
adult
absolutely.
should have stepped in and said, okay, you guys are nuts. I'm not doing it. In fact, I'm going to be calling the police now so they can come collect you and then your parents can deal with you.
This idea of it was called planking for a while too, of riding either on the hood or on the roof of a car. Unfortunately, it is not new at all. I had a classmate right after I graduated high school, so you know how old that guy was. You know how long ago it was. He did the exact same thing. I think he was on the hood. I don't think he was on the roof. He was on the hood of the car. It was a big car, and supposedly it wasn't even going that fast, but hit a bump or something. At a reasonable speed. He went flying off because you can't hang on.
No,
right? He hit a little bit of bump. And exact same thing that you were talking about, Clarissa. He hit his head. Fortunately, I guess, he didn't die. No, he was just brain damaged for life.
Yeah, that's horrible. Horrible all the way around, and these kids, it's just an absolute horrible story. And talk about a young life cut short due to just, an oversight on their part, and then the Uber driver not being a responsible adult. It's just bad all the way around. So heart goes out to that family, and let it be a lesson to everyone that might be listening. It might sound cool, might sound fun, but don't jump on a car. And
teenagers.
Don't do it.
And
just
young adults.
Yeah, just don't do it.
Really, truly, and Clarissa can attest to this, have a sense of indestructibility.
They really do.
Immortality. Look how young I am. Look how strong and healthy I am. Nothing can harm me. Well, sadly, that is not true.
But I can tell you guys this, and Eric, I know you can say it, Clarissa, you can say it too. What you do when you're young haunts you when you're older. So if you hurt yourself bad when you're young, when you hit your 40s, oh boy, that it just doesn't go away. You pay the toll later on, big time. So,
you totally do. But I didn't even think I was going to make it to like 40 you know what I mean? When I was that age, not like I was a partier, but I'm like,
40's forever from now, that's a lifetime away. What am I worried about 40?
Exactly.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I remember when 34 was young, all right? That's how old I am. Yeah.
I remember when 43 was young.
Oh, God.
I am.
Well, yeah. It's all perspective now, isn't it? The older you get, the younger people see. You know how that works.
Well, and listen to this, all right? So I go in every day. I check in on my mother at the assisted living place. Everyone in there, all not the employees, but all of the residents call me young man, youngster. Hey, what's going on, young man?
Makes you feel good, doesn't it, Eric? Huh?
I go, wow, these guys are dumb.
Either that or they're the coolest people you ever met.
No, what I really say is, yes, this is so great. You guys are so old that it makes me seem young.
By comparison, I'm a young chicken compared to you people.
They're basically all in their 80s and 90s.
That is true. They're living the life, though. They've lived good lives. Okay.
Many of them are.
Where would you like to go now, Clarissa? We have a lot of headlines left and not a lot of time, so cherry pick the best ones.
Well, I wanted to talk about this really, really strange. But first of all, before you go any further, when I went to vote yesterday. Henry and I went to an old folks home as well. We got stickers, cookies, and got to pet dogs. It was like the best voting experience I've ever had. It was amazing.
Wow.
Henry and I felt like rock stars.
Yeah.
Bribed. Wait, they're bribing me.
Yeah.
And it was funny. I spent a lot of time on the ballot. And when I was done, I said, oh my God, I spent so much time on that. I feel like I need a cookie. And then some old guy whips out cookies in a bag labeled chocolate chip cookie. I swear to God. It was amazing.
I need to vote where you vote. Wow.
Absolutely amazing. Okay. So this is a story that is definitely a conundrum for me. Because there's no follow-up that I found. It happened in New York.
Okay.
And it has to do with a man named Stephen Carroll. So Stephen Carroll and Michael Carroll, they're older themselves. They're 57 and 61, about literally 50 some years ago. Okay. So they were children, right, at the time. Their father, George Carroll, disappeared in 1961.
Ooh, a little while ago.
Yeah, and the missing man's wife, Dorothy, so their mom, Dorothy, she died in 1988, and she told her kids that he went out and just never came back. And things like that happen.
Dad went out for a pack of cigarettes, never came home.
Right, and so I'm guessing that the kids obviously thought that Dad just, left the family, and that was that. That was that. But somehow Michael, right, the younger brother, he bought the house that his mother used to own. Okay, from his mother in the 1980s. And he had a sense, he had a hunch. He started excavating a few years ago in hopes of solving this mystery. And he had paranormal investigators come over, said there was an energy in the home, a psychic that said that she felt that George Carroll, his dad, was somewhere in the basement. he finally got some ground penetrating radar, which is an amazing thing.
It really is.
And they found a dark spot, which indicates that there's like air, right? Yeah, cavity. About 5 feet below the surface of the basement. And so the adult sons started digging that up. And guess what they found?
What did they find? $1 million. No,
bones.
Bones.
Found Dad. They found Dad.
Skeleton. Dad.
So who killed Dad and buried him in the basement?
Underneath the basement.
Yeah.
People. Why is this not included in the story? Okay, so first of all, DNA testing is still happening to confirm that they are indeed his father's bones, right? But the house has been in the family that entire time, so unless the bones are much older before the family moved there, why is no one talking about who killed this guy? It's not like it was accidental.
Yeah, you don't accidentally kill somebody and bury them under a basement.
I read that exact same story when it came out earlier this week, and thought the exact same thing. They go into all of this painstaking detail about how he found it and the psychic and this and that and everything else. And the one I read, it may have been a different version of the story, but it was all the same information. The one I read implied that there was some reason beyond just circumstance to think that it was the dad. Like there was some identifying feature. At least that was the implication.
Sure, but nobody's.
But there was no discussion whatsoever, other than perhaps a very veiled implication that it could be the mother.
Well, obviously, Mom never. The reason I say that so vehemently is Mom never reported him missing.
Well, that's true
and
too.
She told the kids that he just left.
Then there's
why
that.
Is nobody saying we found Dad and obviously Mom was a murderer? Why is no one talking about that?
Yeah, Dad went out for cigarettes. He just never came home. Sorry, kids. It's just the way it is sometimes.
Oops.
Yeah. Oops. He ran away.
And I'm not going to report to the cops that he's missing because I'm not worried. He just what? So I was upset because I found this story on ABC News. It's been run on Newsday. It's been run in multiple news outlets. And whoever's the Associated Press, whoever is writing these stories, could you maybe include that question?
Well, yeah, that might be an important little piece of the information there is, the follow-up. Who might have killed this dude?
One possible explanation was Dad went down to the basement.
Fell in a hole.
He dug a hole. He climbed in.
Covered it up.
I forgot to mention, when he climbed into the hole that he had already dug, he brought a large vacuum cleaner with him. And using that vacuum cleaner, he sucked that dirt on top of himself.
Oh, good Lord.
Yep. 5 feet down as well, yeah.
And nobody heard a noise during this whole ordeal.
That happened.
Sure, the shop vac would have been the evidence right there that they found with him.
The shop vac, yes. Exactly.
Man, if I was a journalist, I wouldn't even run this story. If I was talking to the kid, because there's quotes from the children, I'd be like, okay, you got to tell me why you suspected Dad was in the basement, all right? More than a psychic.
I would be questioning them pretty hardcore. What did you guys really know? So come on.
That story,
clean.
if anybody has more info about that, please let us know because it's going to just the curiosity. Did you guys see the gold digging dog on CBS News?
No, I just was reading that little snippet.
I'm in love with this dog kind of a little bit. I'm just putting it out there in case the owner is getting too frustrated. Her name is Princess, and she's from Oklahoma City. So this is one of these dogs. I've never had a dog like this, but do you ever have a dog that just gets out and runs away, but then keeps coming back?
Oh, sure. They're called retrievers. They like to do that once in a while.
Yeah, I've always had dogs that stick pretty close to home, but I've definitely we live in a neighborhood where this happens, one of the dogs gets out all the time. So this woman that owns Princess, or Betsy Reyes, kept saying that she's sneaking out at night, and she doesn't know where she goes, and then she comes back. She found out through some source that Princess is sneaking out in the middle of the winter cold and pretending to be homeless outside of McDonald's.
Wow.
What a smart dog. Shows up, wants the Big Mac.
Right?
That's a smart dog right there. That's a smart dog.
This dog is pretty hefty. I mean, she's had quite her share of hamsters.
Yep.
Yeah. And the best part about this story, if you get a chance, so basically she put a tweet out there that says, if you see my dog at the McDonald's on Shields, quit feeding her fat blank because she doesn't know how to act and she's leaving the house all the time to go walking to McDonald's. She's not even a stray. So basically Reyes decides to like sneak out on her dog. So after Princess leaves, Reyes goes to McDonald's too, and she's in line after this person. This person gives the dog a hamburger, and then she rolls up and rolls the window down, and you can see Princess starting to walk up to the car like, hey, I get to that. Oh, crap.
Oh, crap. I know you. No, it's Mom. Run.
Oh, that is hilarious.
That is really funny.
Best story ever. If you haven't seen the video, you have to. I'm sorry. I know it's already viral, but it is so funny. I'm like, oh my God, you were caught.
You're caught. The dog, you know, they know when they're really caught when they hang their head in shame, like my dog will do. You're like, okay, I'm caught. Okay, all right. What's my punishment? You know, that whole thing.
She tries to cover it. That's the funny part. So she goes up to the car like, I'm going to get it for, oh no, oh crap. And she starts to
nonchalantly
wagging her tail like, fancy meeting you here.
Yeah, great seeing you. What are you doing here?
Totally. Like she goes through all these three emotions. Really, it's hilarious. Oh my God. And Reyes, of course, is like, what are you doing?
Yeah. What are you doing here? And you don't need the food. Look at you.
Look at you. She's probably going to the vet going, I don't know why she's gaining so much weight.
She's a hefty pooch.
I've got her on the diet food. I've been cutting back. God bless you, Princess.
So funny.
Yes. Gotta love a good dog story.
And I have a good toilet story, if you'd like to hear that.
Well, there's nothing wrong. A good toilet story.
No, never.
It is. So, and it plays into the politics that we started the hour with. So
it's full circle, isn't it?
Yeah, he's a gubernatorial candidate. Illinois gubernatorial candidate. His name is Pritzker, J.B. Pritzker, right? Democratic nominee and venture capitalist. He is first of all, let me state, he is a super rich guy. He is an heir to the Hyatt Hotels fortune.
Oh, he's got a little bit of money, yeah.
$3.2 billion.
Wow. So he inherited his money is what you're saying. He didn't earn it. He inherited it.
Okay. And so in 2007, Pritzker and his wife, they bought a second mansion next to the one they live in on Chicago's Astor Street. I used to live in Chicago. Can't even touch a house there. You know, they're millions of dollars. It was $3.7 million at the time in 2007. And then in October of 2015, according to a report by the Cook County Inspector General, the Pritzkers had 5 toilets removed from the second house so that it would be classified as uninhabitable to avoid the property tax.
Oh,
yeah.
They got billions of dollars.
Billionaire.
Yeah, so he removes the toilets just to skirt the taxes he might have to pay. Oh, that's such a politician for you.
It's so classy. And all I want to say to him is like, hey, if you want to give up that $6.3 million mansion, that's what it's worth now with the toilets. I mean, I'll go ahead and take it over for you. You know what I mean?
Take that burden on. Yeah, I'll take the burden on for you. Not a problem.
I'll live in that uninhabitable nightmare that you got there on Astor.
Right.
I'll just put an outhouse in the backyard.
Yeah, I mean, good Lord. Like, and you're running for public office, dude. Like, do you really think that people aren't going to find out about that? I'm sorry, but corruption like that, he has no business running for public office. He has no business serving me from McDonald's.
No, but you know, that's the thing though. Now this guy inherited his money, he didn't earn his money. He doesn't know what. A lot of times you hear these outrageous stories more from people that inherit their money rather than people that earn their money. I've noticed that over the years.
No, you usually do. Like people that just get it and they didn't have to work for it. They treat their employees badly. Yeah. You know, they don't give them any sort of incentive. But people that earn it typically are not as bad. But good God, I don't know that story. I mean, it was kind of a funny story, but at the same time, I'm like, boy, what a crook.
Yeah,
man.
I wouldn't vote for this guy, and this guy should be drummed out of any kind of office he may be running for. That's ridiculous.
God, he reminds me of someone, and I can't think of who.
Yeah, I think he's got gold hair. The person that you're thinking of.
The overly large Oompa Loompa.
That one, yeah, I would vote for the dead guy on the ballot with this man. That's what I would do. Good Lord, I just so upset. I do have one more story out of Florida.
Nice.
Women on it. Florida man.
It's a gold mine of hijinks.
It really is. And I want to sort of preface this by indicating that I am aware, just so that you don't think I'm all heartless here, I'm aware that this person probably was either drug intoxicated or had a mental illness, right? But he basically, what he did in St. Augustine, I didn't realize they had something like this. They have something called St. Augustine Alligator Farm Zoological Park. What?
I've been there.
Are you serious?
That's
What is it?
Show up.
Alligator farm. The glorified alligator farm. Yeah, look at those.
I'm going to go to the alligator farm and just jump around.
You can see alligators everywhere in Florida. Why do they need a farm?
Oh, they have them all over the place because they're tourists.
Yeah, it's a trap thing. It's a tourist trap thing.
People pay and you go, they're all on top of each other. And then they send in some armless, toothless individual to wrestle with them. Hey, what happened to your arm? Don't ask.
Yeah, you send in 3-finger Jack. Hey, get in there, Jack. Wrestle those gators again. I've been to one of those, and it is quite the show. You're right. They do send some brave, usually somebody that we describe as a hillbilly, in quotations, to go wrestle one of these gators and look how strong I am, kids, and that kind of thing. It's a good time. I recommend everybody go. It's a good time.
Oh, my God. So employees first contacted police. When they first contacted them, officers had just responded to an incident in which a man wearing nothing but underwear was seen crawling on the lawn in a, quote, concealed manner.
Oh,
the park.
Serpentine.
Is he like army crawling?
He was trying to fit in with the gators. He wanted them to think that he's one of them.
The gators can only go in a straight line. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
You're supposed to run zigzag, to get
Yeah,
away from
serpentine.
Serpentine.
No, you are, because they can only run in a straight line. But I'm like, whatever. I'm not even. So he gets into this park, right, and then he, quote,
You wouldn't say whatever if there was one chasing you.
Yeah, right.
I would be screaming, and I actually would be running in a zigzag. I've known that for quite a while, so I'm sure it would kick in. But he flung himself into the crocodile exhibit.
I would not put myself in that position anyway to worry about running zigzag. So, I would never intend to get that close to a crocodile.
People are silly.
It's, and the best part about it is that when they got to this alligator pit where the alligators were that he jumped in, do you know what they found floating in the water?
His underwear.
A croc. He was wearing croc shoes.
Oh,
I'm not even kidding. You cannot make this up, Florida man.
Oh, good Lord. Now, did he live?
He did live. He did suffer numerous bites, but he actually was okay. The croc did drag him, and they did a little death roll. But
a little one. Is there such thing as just a little death roll?
For fun.
Just for fun. And he was able to kick the gator, crawl back up on shore, and get away. So he did have numerous bites on his legs, but other than that, he was unharmed. Yeah.
Remember, here's another aspect of your typical gator farm. These are smaller, older, and beat to hell gators.
Yeah, you're not getting at their prime gators. You're getting the senior citizen gators, like the nursing home gators.
Which is sad. It's sad to me.
Where they're looking at them going, do you want to bite them?
Yeah,
No,
it's the gator nursing home. That's about exactly right.
Senior gators have lost their teeth. Yeah.
Yeah, they have like dentures, gator
memory
dentures.
issues.
They have AIDS that help them.
Oh my God!
I can't eat this guy. You got to help me.
They have to cut them. They have to cut up their victims into small chunks beforehand.
Oh my gosh! It's just it's strange because I feel like zoos or things like that. Like, is there anybody at this point that can't go on the internet and see animals in their own environment?
Yeah.
Is there?
Well, zoos,
I don't think we need zoos.
Yeah, zoos are. You can't
Except
seem
for
truly
research.
live.
No. Except for research and like rehabilitating animals that might be getting close to being extinct. Then I think we do need habitats, but. Other than that, my gosh, seeing like an elephant or a zebra or something, it just makes me sad.
I've seen grizzlies in their natural habitat.
Oh, that's scary.
And that was scary enough, and I was probably about half a mile away from them. And I'm thinking, whoa, they could get here really, really quickly if they chose to.
That's
So,
true. I saw a
yeah.
grizzly with cubs and a bunch of tourists trying to stand really close and take pictures when I was driving through.
Yeah, there was a guy
For
that
real.
did that. There was a guy that made a documentary about living with the grizzlies, and they ate him. They
Oh,
did.
I heard about that.
They did.
That's
The
right.
grizzly man guy, and they were sick of him, so they ate him.
Like, why would you? I don't know, but like, why would you think you could
Well,
live with them?
Well, here's the thing. The guy goes there, he makes his big documentary. The bears are great. They know me, and I named them all. He brings his girlfriend with him. Oh, look, we love these bears. Yeah, they find their tent ripped apart and lots of blood and not much else. They ate them.
I don't doubt it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Ate them up. Ate them up. So we got to run a break. Don't go anywhere. Everyone, when we come back, we'll be talking about Femme Fatale 2.0. Interesting dive into Munchausen's by proxy. Don't go anywhere. Be right back.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard. Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey. Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. You know, 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your Smokey on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com. Only you can prevent wildfires.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
I got a rather serious problem over here.
All right, what are we looking at?
Cranky mother-in-law asleep on the couch in the man cave.
Dear God.
It gets worse.
That's impossible.
And she's passed out on the remote.
I stand corrected.
What do I do?
Okay, I want you to grab a Torrin Big Red hydraulic bottle jack.
Okay.
Now you wedge that bad boy in under your mother-in-law and crank her up skyward.
It's working. And got the remote.
Great. Now grab that Torrin Big Red 2-ton folding shop crane and put that woman on wheels.
And away we go.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Eric Olsen and
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
All right, everyone that's listening live right now, point your browsers to thecriminalcode.com and take a look at the new article that Dr. Cole just released, I think, yesterday, Femme Fatale 2.0, and we're going to be covering in depth Munchausen's by proxy. Let me step aside, though, and let the intros happen.
we'll let those intros
right
happen.
now. Do the intros. Boom. There they are.
Well, again, this will not be lengthy because Clarissa, and I actually really like this format. It's more on her, but at least she gets to pick them. But I'd much rather hear Clarissa really dig into and dissect a case or cases with a similar theme over the course of an hour than to have just kind of a random interview. I'd much rather have the person who knows more than, I don't know, anyone else on earth about this kind of stuff dig into it and be able to ask questions and banter than to have to go through, kind of a lot of the formalities and strictures of an interview. That doesn't mean we're not going to have interviews. We want to do interviews. We will do interviews. But it's also a wonderful thing to hear what Clarissa has to say about all these super cool cases. And that's the other part of it that's so great is because she gets to pick and choose, we're not stuck with whoever kind of comes along and what the interviewee wants to talk about.
Sure.
All right.
Well,
so
hold up,
Eric.
Eric. One more thing. I got to add this, though. We are the only true crime show that features an actual practicing forensic psychologist, guys. So it's not just anyone. It's a real forensic psychologist working in the field. So that's why it's so valuable to us. And so
you know what else she is? She is the world's least ugly forensic psychologist.
I know, like
you guys have buttered me so much.
Do you know how often? Do you know how often I get told though that you're hot?
Well, that's nice.
All the time. Like people will see her picture, like that's the doctor. Yeah, that's the doctor. Wow, she's hot. I'm like, it's Dr. Cole. It's Clarissa. Back up, buddy.
You know, like thank you. But you know, as a side note, I do notice that a lot of like forensic psychologists are kind of good looking. It's weird. You know, like the gamut of psychologists. You know what I mean? If you look at all the type of psychologists, like the forensic psychologist, I'm like, what's going on there?
Right.
You know.
Right. Well, I do like the redhead you chose for the cover art.
Somebody did. That's actually on Creative Commons. This is like a free art. Like, I think she's beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
There you go. The cigarette in her mouth, looking all smoldery over there. Like, hello.
Real.
You know where they found her? They found her with that dog in front of McDonald's.
That's exactly where they found her. She was the owner that put the dog up to it for the free McDonald's. Then when she got caught, she didn't make the backstory. It wasn't me. It was the dog.
All right. So having done all that buttering, here we go. Ever on the vanguard of true crime trends, and that's true, Dr. Clarissa Cole has seen the development of a new kind of femme fatale with surprising ties to the despicable Munchausen syndrome by proxy in an article on her riveting the Criminal Code site. And on tonight's show, Dr. Cole reveals all. And I will step aside.
All right. I was thinking about this category of femme fatale when I started putting together my killer compendium for my website. That's all the different types of serial killers that there are. And, you know, they don't really have them parsed out very well. The FBI has a few categories, but not many. And so I was sort of trying to parse them out. And femme fatale is one of those that you think of when you think of prolific serial killers. And there are so many femme fatale characters. You know, Nanny Doss was one from the 1920s who married a string of men, you know, and that's, to me, that's what I think of. Like, you think the film noir, you know, I can't think of a famous one, but somebody that lures someone in and marries him for his money and then ends up poisoning him and then finds his best friend and marries him right after that, you know, that sort of thing. But I started, like, I was drawn into this story first of the Dee Dee Blanchard case. And then I remember the story of a woman named Lacey Spears. Now, Lacey Spears is not a typical femme fatale looking girl, but she's not bad looking either. And she, you know, she did the same exact thing that Dee Dee did with her child, which is the Munchausen's by proxy, where you make a child sick for the attention. But it dawned on me that, at least in Dee Dee Blanchard's case, and a little bit in the Spears case too, now these people with Munchausen's, it's not just the you know, attention, but they can get lots and lots of money.
So it's the financial motivation rather than the sympathy now. They're looking at it as a business proposition.
Well, that's what makes it so strange, because that has not been brought into the lexicon of the criminal yet. You know, when we talk about Munchausen's, we're talking just about the secondary gain of the attention.
Well, what is Munchausen's? I guess we got to kind of back up and explain the disorder first. I mean, in my mind anyway, because I don't quite have a grasp of what it is.
Okay, so Munchausen's syndrome. So it's a specific type of thing, just so people don't think I don't know it. It's called a factitious disorder, right? A factitious disorder is anything that someone makes up. Factitious, it sounds like fiction.
Okay, gotcha. Like a hypochondriac
Yes, exactly. But with a hypochondriac, they think they're really dying. Someone with factitious disorder knows they're not.
Oh, okay. So they're aware of the ruse.
Very much aware. Someone with factitious disorder is likely to steal labs from a person who actually has cancer and give them to a loved one and say they have cancer. They know they're doing it. It's very different.
Nefarious is what it is.
Very much, right. It's a disorder where they're looking for the sympathy. Now, Munchausen syndrome by itself is that idea that they're making themselves physically sick. So in regular Munchausen's, it's a little different than typical factitious. So in Munchausen syndrome, they're actually making themselves sick. They're creating these symptoms, these real symptoms, but they're not being caused by an organic, illness. They're being caused by the person doing it to themselves to get the sympathy. And in Munchausen syndrome by proxy, that's where somebody is making someone else sick.
But then they become the victims, though. They're the by proxy part isn't that where the victim would come in? They're victimizing them to make them sick.
So it's typically when we see Munchausen's, not always, there are variations of it, but typically Munchausen's by proxy is where it's a mother who has children that she is purposely making sick for the attention that she gets and the sympathy that she gets. It really is about the sympathy too, not just the attention. She wants the, oh, poor you, and you're such a good mom for being a mom to this very sick child. That's typically what we think of when we think of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. But when I thought more about this idea of the femme fatale, I started to realize that Munchausen syndrome by proxy isn't just about the attention anymore, because you can make lots of money. I mean, Dee Dee Blanchard got a house. She got trips. She got money. She got, to be in contact with famous people, all by making her daughter sick for years.
Well, what's the underlying disorder for the perpetrator? I mean, why is this insatiable need to have the sympathy?
It's a very interesting combo of things. Typically, the person that has the disorder, Munchausen's, they were raised in an environment where they felt like they never got enough attention as a child. So, what's kind of interesting about Munchausen's is that oftentimes we'll find out that a person with Munchausen's actually did have somebody sick in their family.
Does it tend to be more middle children that have this issue, or older, or does it really matter in what
it doesn't matter? It doesn't. The birth order, it doesn't seem to matter. It has to do with them not getting the attention. So let's say that you grow up and your brother does legitimately have cancer, but it's a lingering, long-lasting cancer, and he always gets all the best presents. He always gets the most attention. People don't come to your baseball games because they have to stay with your brother. So the way a child sees that is that mom and dad love him more. He's more important. Being sick is equated with love.
Man, I'm going to tell a little bit of a story here. I had a cousin that had horrible tonsillitis or strep throat, rather. And this kid got like ice cream and everything. I mean, oh, you poor little guy, you got that. I got it. And they're like, here's some dilly bars. Shut up. That's all I got. He got fanfare.
Yeah.
I got nothing. I got nothing.
Are you finished?
I'm done. I was ranting all day.
I have a story too, and it shows you that some of this thinking can exist on a spectrum without descending into pathology. My mother had one sister who was a couple years younger, and she had type 1 diabetes. So she was born in the 30s with type 1, okay? So it was very severe. She basically deteriorated over the next 21, 22 years. She went blind. I mean, it was really awful.
Oh, my Lord.
And died in her early 20s. So my poor mother, who is a very deep-feeling person and who loved her sister dearly, but there were times in my lifetime, especially when I was a kid, when something would happen, and when my mother broke, when she snapped, she would talk about the fact that she had to grow up, she had to be an adult from a very early age because she and her parents had to take care of the sister, and that there were times when she wished the roles were reversed.
And that I can't tell you how common that is. Like, I don't think that we should pathologize that because, like you were saying, Eric, it's a spectrum, right? And I think most kids that grow up with an ill either parent or sibling, they do feel that way. Like when they're under tremendous stress, they're like, oh my God, not only did I not get to have a childhood, but you didn't pay attention to me because I wasn't sick enough for you.
Yeah.
I think that's really normal.
Yeah,
and so
I think it is.
Yeah, if people have those feelings, I would never put them down for that. I absolutely would feel that way. I think I was actually, I was the opposite, unfortunately. I was the sick one. I didn't have a sibling growing up, but I was sick with bronchitis, had to have surgeries young, and that sort of a thing. And it was miserable. But I imagine that there were kids that were probably envious because I got to spend a lot of time out of school with my parents. And they didn't. And it's like, you don't think of those things, when you're sick. You're busy being miserable. But so basically a lot of times when someone develops Munchausen's or Munchausen's by proxy, it's because they want that. They want that attention, and that sympathy feels really good to them. And so it's not uncommon to see that. We don't always see it, though. Definitely it's not a, one-to-one correlation or anything, but it does happen a lot. Other times we just find that they're just kind of a really insatiable kid when it comes to attention. Well, no, they just want attention all the time.
Munchausen's is, of course, making yourself appear to be sick, right?
Correct.
And the by proxy is when you have a victim.
Correct.
Right. So if someone had Munchausen's, that would be pretending to be sick for the same sympathy, but then the by proxy is to get sympathy through someone else that's close to you being sick. Okay, gotcha.
Right. And when you have the by proxy, you can make an unwitting victim sick. So you don't have to suffer the pain of being sick, but you get all the accolades, not just, and the sympathy. So you get the sympathy for your son being sick, but you get the accolades for being such a good and patient mother too.
Oh, look at you living with this. Boy, are you such a great person, sticking by your child. And yeah, I hear you. The hero thing. It's like almost like a cape, and you're a hero.
You're so strong and all of that. But what people sort of neglect, I mean, even treatment providers neglect in Munchausen's by proxy, is that there's a really strong, antisocial, maybe, I haven't tested anyone, but maybe even psychopathic component to it. We don't think about that. We think of somebody that wants that emotional connection, that sympathy. But when you look at Lacey Spears and people like Lacey Spears and Dee Dee Blanchard, they had problems even when they were children with some troubling issues. So it's no surprise that they turned out like they did. But do you guys know the story of Lacey Spears and Garnet at all, or should I kind of go through that for the...
Would you please go through that? I'm not familiar with it really
Tell
at all.
the tales.
Oh, man. And you know what? I actually saw this story as it was happening, as it broke, and it just... it wasn't that long ago. So there's a girl named Lacey Spears. She was, I think, 26 or 27, but she had a child. She had a child named Garnet. And he was just a beautiful little boy. She called him Garnet the Great. And she started, mommy blogging, just a blog.
Yeah, her journey.
Garnet's journey. Yeah. And so she was just blogging when he was quite young, when he was maybe 1 or 2. She started a mommy blog. And there was nothing really that special about it. She just talked about how Garnet's father wasn't there anymore and how it was tough being a single mom. And she started getting a community kind of rallying around her. She was a cute young girl. She was probably, I think, 23 at the time and a single mom with this kid. And she was from Alabama. And she started really getting a circle of people that were supporting her. But then, kind of out of the blue, Garnet became sick. And it's so sick that he required a feeding tube. At one point, he couldn't eat on his own. So it was a tube that went directly into his stomach, right? And he had all of these issues. He had seizures, Crohn's disease, just all these different things. And Lacey, his mom, was always kind of blogging about this because she needed that support from the community. And the community was very supportive, all these other moms kind of rallying around her saying, do you need anything? Can we give you anything? Can we get you anything? Gifts and support, and mostly just the emotional part of it. But by the time Garnet was 5, he was finally in the hospital again, and Lacey had moved from Alabama to New York State. She goes into the hospital with Garnet, and again, treatment providers are baffled. That was the weird part about it, is that Garnet never really had a specific diagnosis. He had a lot of diagnoses, but not something like this is what's causing it. Just, I don't know. He's sick all the time. And he goes to the hospital again in New York in January of, I think it was 2015, maybe. And when he gets there, he's very sick and he's having bad seizures again. And she takes him to the bathroom. And what she didn't know is that in the corridor to the bathroom in his room. Like for kids, this isn't uncommon, especially when a kid is on watch. You know, if they're worried about him having a seizure, for instance, they'll have cameras in the room. And not everybody is always aware of this. And she took him to the bathroom 3 or 4 times. And when she did, she always brought a container of something in there with her. And when he came out, he was always worse.
So, of course, the hospital confronted her on this, right?
Well, Garnet went into a massive seizure, which sent him into essentially like a coma. He was just kind of hanging on.
Yeah.
And eventually they took him off of life support. But what they didn't actually notice this at first. That's not what triggered them. What triggered them to kind of look into it was that Lacey was posting all of these things to Facebook as they were happening.
Whoa, now.
Like, as he had a seizure. And as she was making the decision to take her son off life support.
So she's live posting this on Facebook.
Yes.
That we're unhooking my son and this and that.
Yes.
That's freaking sick.
And the nurses, especially, because the doctors aren't there all the time, the nurses were just dismayed.
Yeah.
You know, they were very dismayed by her behavior. And you never know how somebody is going to respond to grief. I'm not saying that there's any one specific way to do it, but the nurses found her behavior odd and enough to sort of go, hey, what's going on here? And so they did start looking at the footage. And I don't know that they would have otherwise. They started looking at the footage, and that was when they saw it, that she was going into the bathroom with something and coming back out.
What is she poisoning this young man or this young boy with?
Yeah, so remember, he has a feeding tube, right? So he doesn't taste anything, really. It's going directly into his stomach.
Yeah.
So they found the equivalent of 69 packets of McDonald's table salt.
Oh my God! It was
in his stomach at death.
Sodium poisoning.
Yeah. Sodium poisoning. And for those of you that don't know, sodium, now, people think about like salt, like, that can't kill you. But sodium and potassium and calcium, right? They control these things called sodium channels in your heart and in your brain. So your brain and your heart need sodium to keep pumping. It's just one of those vital things that we need. We need potassium, sodium, calcium. If you have too much sodium, it will trigger a massive heart attack. And when the heart attack is over, your body gives off all these chemicals, sodium being one of them, so you can't always detect that foul play occurred.
Now, do you think that she knew this? This Lacey knew this, and that was the chemical to use to induce all this?
I guarantee she knew this, because when they went to her computer, the same computer that she was making all her mommy blogs from, they found searches inquiring about how salt would affect a child of approximately his size and how much.
Oh, that is just so horrible.
And they found a huge can of salt in the house, like a huge, can of sea salt, more than anybody would need for anything. And they found it right next to his feeding bags, like the bags that she hooked up to his feeding tube. And after he passed away and Lacey realized that they were holding her kind of for a long time at the hospital, she realized something was going on. She wasn't arrested quite yet.
The jig was up. Yeah.
She called a neighbor and asked the neighbor to throw those feeding bags in the trash. The feeding bags that she had already mixed up for Garnet. And luckily, the neighbor did like Lacey, felt sorry for her, decided not to throw them away.
I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing because it's just a response of how despicable this is. It's just, wow, that's your own child.
It's just so sickening, because exactly, this is your own flesh and blood, and you're treating them not as a human being. So beyond the deception, the horrible deception of what you're doing to the world and getting actual
gifts,
goods and services for this, as well as the emotional support that you apparently so desperately need. But you are treating your own child as if he is not a person.
Yeah, like
has
an
no
object.
value.
Yeah.
And that they're there only for your benefit.
Correct. And I mean, this kid was a very sweet kid. You look at pictures of him and it kind of rips your heart out. A very cute kid. And he was sick his entire life because of this. And so they, authorities went, they seized the bags, the feeding bags, which were, of course, chock full of salt.
Well, sure.
Just, huge amounts of sodium. And that was one thing that was very consistent in Garnet's records, actually, was that every time they tested his blood at any different place, and they tested his blood a lot, right, because he was sick, his sodium levels were always very high. But that can be from a lot of different things. It can be from a lot of natural causes. So they realized sodium played a part in his being sick, but nobody really ever came right out and said, are you dosing your kid with salt?
Well, they should have, though. They should have been like,
yes,
hey,
they should have.
Hold on here. At least, no matter how offensive it is, you got to look into it for his own well-being. But it makes you wonder, does this Lacey Spears, does she have a backstory? Was she kind of weird beforehand, though? Was it kind of leading up to this?
Yeah, she does. And I was thinking, too, like, there's no info that I found, at least easily accessible online, about why she moved from Alabama to New York State.
Yeah.
I have a really good guess as to why she moved.
Because the jig was getting up in Alabama?
Yeah, people suspected her in Alabama, so she moved to New York to have a new start. Yes, so people don't know you. That happens a lot. It happened with the Blanchards, too. No, Lacey had a very weird history, and she wasn't that old. She was only 26 when they picked her up, but childhood friends came forward of Lacey's and said that the lying started quite young, 8 or 9 years old, that she would lie to parents about anything and everything.
Oh,
just anything and everything. She was just a consistent liar. And it turns out that her blog, which is still up, by the way, you can still go to Garnet's Journey. It's only a few of the blog posts are still available, not the ones that talk about him being sick, thankfully, but how she began the blog. And she talks about this man named Blake, who was a police officer. That was his father. And we're going to Blake's memorial service. He died in the line of duty, and it's so sad. There's no Blake.
Well, who was the father? Who was the father?
Nobody is completely sure. Someone did come forward at one point that said he believed he was Garnet's father, but he wasn't sure. And there's certainly no police officer. She had a string of guys that she had been with. Nobody is sure exactly who Garnet's father was.
So to make herself that much more sympathetic, her husband was a hero that died in the line of duty. Why did nobody see through this? Come on, that's almost too perfect.
So that's how she starts her blog, talking about how Garnet is asking why daddy isn't coming home. Garnet never knew a father. I'm guaranteeing you didn't ask about that unless you told him some story. And so before that, she's lying all the time. But some really disturbing behavior happened when Spears was in her teens with children. So she has at least 3 different children. Actually, there's 6. I found that there were 6. I only included 3 in my blog post because I only knew about 3 at the time. So when Lacey was a teenager and she worked at a daycare, there was a boy named Jonathan Strain. Lacey began posting pictures it was MySpace at the time, claiming that he was her son. She got found out, and the mother confronted her. So Lacey, took down that profile. Cameron Clark, another boy entrusted to Lacey's care, went through the same treatment and with the same claims, and the mother then broke all ties with Lacey. And then there was an evening that Lacey spent at her church. She reportedly gathered all the Sunday school children together, rounded up all the infants, and upon finding an infant boy she liked, she just up and started taking him through the church to a different part of the church.
She really has a thing for male children.
Male children, yes. It's a fixation on male children. And I found this other report before the show tonight. I was researching a bit more that there were 3 other children that Lacey was babysitting before she had Garnet, that on a regular basis. It was 3 single mothers that she befriended in her community through, social media. These kids were in her care, and all of them started getting sick. With really horrible things like, gastric, upset and these horrible ear infections, which, by the way, Garnet was prone to, ear infections with pus and things like that oozing out of their ears. And after they basically excised Lacey from their lives, the kids never got them again.
Okay, so the jig's up, right? Lacey's caught. She's in the hospital. She knows she's caught. What do they charge her with? Murder? Obviously they'd have to.
Premeditated murder, yes.
And so where is she now today? Where is Lacey?
They gave her 20 years. They didn't give her everything they could have. The judge was merciful. Gave her 20 years flat, and she's in prison, and she still denies any wrongdoing.
Man. Wow.
She denies that she did it. I don't know how on earth she could look a reporter in the eye, because bunches of reporters have talked to her. She's been on 48 Hours, and I watched a couple of those interviews. She's just the type that you would expect, a very soft-spoken.
Yes. The Femme Fatale. Yeah.
Very, and extremely predictable too, right? Like first of all, she wouldn't want to sit with me because I'm female. She's going to want a male interviewer. She would hate sitting with me. Second, she would take a different tone with me once she realized I wasn't going to be tricked by her demeanor. Her demeanor with me would probably be not to talk at all or to be very short.
Gotcha.
Because she doesn't want to give up any information. But the ruse wouldn't work with me. She'd know it. She probably wouldn't interview with me at all.
So she seems to prefer men to interview her, then, is what
it only
saying.
works with men. Yeah. Yes. And do I think that the interviewer was way too soft on her? Yeah. Yes, he was. I mean, I know he was trying to get the sound bites for TV, but give me a break.
Yeah, he's in it for the news.
Yeah, he's in it for the news. I mean, it wasn't a clinical interview, but, I don't know if she's ever admitted it to prison officials. We won't know. I mean, those are in her mental health records, and that's confidential. But has she ever admitted it publicly? No. But she has a very long history. I mean, like I said, 8 or 9 years old, she was lying all the time. She was lying about family members, saying that she had a father that used to pilot airplanes, and he went down in an airplane. Like, she had all these things that she's been making up lies for her entire life. I'm not sure she even knows what's true anymore.
Now, would that be a component of a borderline personality disorder?
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's kind of where I was going. So there's a flavor of several different personality disorders in here. Mm-hmm. First of all, the fact that Lacey targets boys. That's a very typical borderline thing to do for a female, even male children. And she lies all the time, manipulates people, uses her kind of feminine wiles to get what she wants. It's all very borderline-ish, but the lying is very antisocial. Also borderline, right? There's a flavor of antisocial in there. So antisocial, borderline, and then Munchausen's. I would say Munchausen's is actually down the list because those personality disorders are so strong with her. That's what drives her.
She's just a bag of nuts. So she is. She's a nutball.
Well, Mike, and that's the thing. She's only, 29 years old now. She can absolutely have more children.
Well, if she does all of her 20 years, she'll be 49 when she gets out. Possible she could, but God, I hope she doesn't, because you would think that any guy that would... No, she'll probably get a lot of good time.
She'll get out by the time she's, 35?
Yeah. Well, any guy that does the research at all and who you're with would see who you're with and not have children with her.
You'd think.
Run away fast, run away hard. We got to take a break, speaking of running away. When we come back, we're going to dive even further into it. I'd like to talk about the Gypsy Rose case, too. The Blanchard case. I'd like to go there as well. Next, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So Daddy's little girl thinks she's going to prom tonight with some punk who calls himself Snake.
Yeah, they grow up so fast.
Well, not if I can help it, they don't.
Okay, here's what you do. When that kid shows up, Dad's going to be doing a few chores around the house.
Huh?
It doesn't matter the chore. What's important is that it requires the use of a 60cc gas-powered chainsaw and possibly a mask.
I think it's showtime.
He's here. Dad, I want you to meet...
All right, let her rip.
What's that, honey? Hi, Snake. Great to meet you. But wait, where are you going?
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard. Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey? Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your smoky on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
And we are back. Welcome back to After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Eric Olsen and
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
Now, I'd like to kind of switch gears a little bit because this one actually ends up deadly, this next story, and that's the Dee Dee and Gypsy Rose Blanchard case. We have covered it a long time ago, but we will refresh everyone's memory. I'm sure Dr. Cole can walk us, give us the nutshell version of that, because we have some thoughts of our own, actually more apt. Dr. Cole has some thoughts of her own on that whole case.
Yeah, it's very tragic in a different way. Because when you look at Garnet Spears, Garnet was the victim the entire time. He was being made sick, and then he was eventually murdered, right? But you look at Dee Dee and Gypsy Rose Blanchard, it's reversed. So Dee Dee, her given name was Claudine Blanchard, had similar issues to Lacey. You know, she always was very deceptive, didn't ever have a partner for very long, and she ended up becoming pregnant and gave birth to a daughter that she named Gypsy Rose Blanchard. And despite the fact that people always said that Gypsy was actually healthy, she claimed that she was premature and sickly, but I don't think that's the case. Gypsy was markedly ill. She had seizures. She was confined to a wheelchair at one point. She had a bunch of her teeth pulled. I mean, seizures, heart.
Oh.
They said she had cancer at one point. She was getting treated for it, or leukemia or something. This girl was just, the amount of medication that this woman pumped into this kid is unreal. And she would doctor shop until she got what she wanted. And and there was only one that has gone on record anyway that tried to call out Dee Dee for what she was. He realized that Gypsy was not, at least not as sick as Dee Dee was claiming. And he didn't know if Gypsy was completely healthy, but he was like, no, you're something's wrong here. And he tried to call her out, and she pretty much struck back. I want to say she sued him or something. And she moved so many times and had so little relatives around Gypsy that Gypsy didn't even know how old she was.
Wow. So this girl goes through life. Number one, though, why there's a theme here. Why are healthcare people so afraid to call these people out? Why is there the fear? What are they afraid of?
I think that some people are afraid of lawsuits. There's that. And I think, too, when you're going to a medical doctor, and a lot of people do these days, they go to medical doctors, and you have to realize that medicine has expanded quite a bit from what it used to be when people got an MD. Okay, so in the last 50 years, medicine has exploded. There's a million things to know there. I mean, just for any general practitioner, my God, the amount of information you have to have, right? So they are typically not schooled in psychology really at all because, my God, the stuff they have to keep in their heads anyway is intense, and I don't envy them that.
But you think that they would, not to step on you, Dr. Cole, but you think they'd understand the earmarks, though? You'd at least think that schooling would be there.
Oh, no, I think it is. I think they know. I do. I think a lot of them know, or they suspect it, but I think they don't know how to approach someone like a Dee Dee Blanchard, who was very kind of loud and blustery and forcing what she wanted onto these doctors. And if you aren't schooled in it, approaching someone like her is probably very difficult. You kind of just want to get her out of your office.
Yeah, an abrasive personality. Yeah, I get it now. I get it. Okay, so Gypsy is born. Dee Dee keeps her sick right from the word go, right? Pretty much.
Oh, God. And since she was so sick and kind of undernourished, and she wasn't walking because she put her in a wheelchair and told her she couldn't, stuff like that. She, atrophied muscles and stuff. She looked a lot younger than, she was. She always looked very young. But at one point, Gypsy kind of decided that she was really sort of she started realizing she didn't really need a lot of this medication.
Yeah.
That just made her feel bad. Like it wasn't helping her at all. And she wanted to do things like kids do. And Dee Dee was restricting everything. So Gypsy begged and begged and begged to be able to go on the internet and play games. Just to play games.
Normal kid stuff.
Normal kid stuff. Not to do anything lavish, and she hadn't really been through schooling because she'd been moved around so much. And eventually, because she wanted Gypsy to play along, Dee Dee relents. Because Gypsy is basically saying, I'm not going to go to the Make-A-Wish Foundation and claim I, feel sick all the time.
So Gypsy knew what was going on. She was not completely without fault here. She kind of knew the game.
She did. She didn't know that she was, I want to say she was actually in her late teens. She thought she was probably 14 or 15. And she knew what was going on. And she basically told her mom, like, look, I'm not going to help you get free stuff or take this medication, if you don't let me do this. So, typical teenage stuff, though.
Rebellion.
Just, different context, right? So she gives her a computer. She gives her restricted internet access that she does monitor, but Gypsy's smart. So Gypsy starts communicating with people, like in gaming forums, right?
Gotcha.
Dee Dee thinks this is harmless, but Gypsy finds a boyfriend. So, yeah, and not just any boyfriend either, like a very disturbing boyfriend. So Gypsy, as you might imagine, had a lot of anger, right? A lot of anger at her
by
mother.
now, yeah.
Oh God, yeah, like just murderous anger at her mother because she won't let her do anything, right? So typical teenager sort of acting out. Well, she meets this guy. I mean, luck of the draw. She meets a man online, another person that is young. I'm trying to look up his name now. I forgot his name. She meets him, and they start going back and forth about how they don't like their parents sort of telling them what to do. Typical teenage stuff. Yeah. But then he starts suggesting some really sort of disturbing stuff, like maybe we should kill her.
Oh,
I want to rape her. Things like that.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah. That took a hard left turn to Albuquerque.
It did, though. It did. His last name was Godejohn. So Mr. Godejohn, he was around her age, though. He basically tells her, like, why don't we kill her? Why don't we get rid of her? I would like to rape her. And interestingly enough, that was the bone of contention about this whole plan, was that Gypsy didn't want him to rape her mother. She was fine with him killing her, but didn't want him to rape her because she considered that cheating.
Well, can you imagine that conversation? I don't mind if you slaughter her, but man, you better not, under any circumstances, have sex with her because I don't want you cheating on me. What? How was this even normal at all? Well, okay,
authorities didn't have to imagine that conversation. It was all on the computer.
Oh my God, Lord!
So she wasn't that smart.
No, whatever your rights on there forever. Come on, it's the age of the internet.
But at the same time, you have to remember that she hadn't been exposed to anything except very childish things. Mm-hmm. She was kept in this sort of childish idea, that she was, younger than she was. She'd never been exposed to children her own age. She had no friends. So this was the one person that listened to her. And it started off very benign, of course. Nicholas Godejohn started off benign. And then when he started suggesting some really strange stuff, he was her only lifeline. And I don't think that Gypsy necessarily wanted those things to happen, but she didn't want to be under her mother's thumb anymore. So Nicholas Godejohn eventually convinces her to meet up, and he came over and stabbed Dee Dee Blanchard in her sleep and murdered her.
Wow.
I was going to say, gaming gone wrong. Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Darn those chat rooms anyway. How did Gypsy respond to this?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when he came over, he ordered Gypsy to hide in the bathroom and cover her ears so she wouldn't have to witness it or hear it. And then he went and had sex with Gypsy, assumingly taking her virginity. And he took the $4,000 in cash that Dee Dee had been keeping, mostly from her ex-husband's child support, I guess. And they went on the run together. Nicholas Godejohn and Gypsy. Yeah, they were found. So they were in Missouri at the time, Springfield, Missouri, and they were found in Wisconsin in a hotel.
Oh, it's always Wisconsin.
I know, right?
Always Wisconsin. So, Dee Dee,
how functional was she by then?
I was gonna say, Gypsy, how functional? I mean,
she was healthy. She's fine. I mean,
how old was she at this time?
I want to. How old was she? Because I think he was 23. I think she was like 19 or 20, maybe.
So she was an adult. So she wasn't like a child. She faced real adult time.
Oh, absolutely. And she did this and did not regret it because of what Dee Dee had done to her. And I can't really say I blame her. Mm-hmm. They found her and she went to trial. And now Gypsy Rose is in prison for the murder of her mother. She accepted a plea bargain in 2015 and she was sentenced to 10 years.
That's awfully light time.
Yeah, it is. And I agree with you. But when you think about what her mom did.
How about Mr. Godejohn? Whatever happened to him?
Let's see, Mr. I want to say that he is still kind of facing, what is he? He waived his right to a trial by jury. His trial is set for November 2018. Yeah.
So because it's still to come.
It's still pending because he was measured with an IQ of only 82. And that's in the borderline range. So you can't try someone in that range just normally.
When did this murder occur?
2015.
So he's been in the system in limbo without having an official sentence for that long. Wow, that's a long time. Is that typical?
The average inmate waits 2 years or more. Yeah,
man,
it's
so much
normal.
for a speedy trial.
Oh, it's not that you couldn't have a speedy trial, but I wouldn't recommend it to anybody who's listening. Don't do it.
Never do a speedy trial?
No. Oh, my God, no. You are not prepared. I'm telling you right now. You and your attorney are not prepared. They need time to prepare. You know what I mean? The prosecutor doesn't need as much time, and they have more staff and more money, so don't do it.
Okay.
Wait.
Nuts and bolts here. What was Dee Dee's problem? What was her nut? Why was she so crazy?
Yeah. She was Munchausen by proxy, like we've been talking about, and probably just a cornucopia of other things. Antisocial and borderline, obviously being part of that, because they had a house that they didn't pay for, they had trips they didn't pay for, all through Make-A-Wish. They defrauded Make-A-Wish Foundation multiple times, and but that's the thing that I kind of wanted to get to is that when the victim grows up, you have a victim of Munchausen by proxy, and these victims don't always die. Like when we hear about Munchausen's by proxy, we think of the kids that die because that's what we hear about. Mm-hmm. But there are many, many more kids that do not, that grow up, that become adults, that leave the house and realize I wasn't sick.
At some point, though, does the kids kind of take on, subconsciously, do they take on the manifestation of the illness? Whatever they're told they have.
Yes, and they may be sort of hypochondriacal because of it.
Mm-hmm.
They become a bit of a hypochondriac, even though they're not really sick, because mom always said they were sick.
Yeah.
They embrace that sickly persona because they get attention from it too.
Yeah.
They're not used to being healthy and part of society. There's that side of it. Sure. And honestly, I think that's the more healthy side of it, because the other side of it is becoming more like Gypsy, which is angry, murderously angry, and I think very borderline.
Well, I was going to say, what's Gypsy? See, it's hard to be sympathetic to Dee Dee. It really is. The victim of the murder, I have a hard time being sympathetic her way because of what she did to this kid.
She was a monster. She was a monster for 20 years, and I don't regret saying it. She's a monster.
So I almost want to say comeuppance, but I mean, murder is never okay, all right? I'm not saying that at all. But is it normal for Gypsy to lash out at her mother that's kept her down under her thumb for 20 years? Yeah, that's pretty damn normal if you ask me. But the murder obviously is not normal. And it's now, do you believe that this Gypsy Rose manipulated Mr. Godejohn at all to do this, or was it all his idea?
That was the problem that I had with it. Exactly what you said. You hit the nail on the head. Is that I was thinking at first because he was older, and obviously socialized in normal ways, right? That Nicholas Godejohn was just this deviant that happened to prey on her. So I thought that Gypsy got victimized twice, essentially. Like mom victimizes her, and then this sicko that she finds on the internet victimizes her. He only has an IQ of 81.
I was going to say, she's stupid like a fox.
And when they go back over the chat logs, they notice that Gypsy is controlling most of it.
Gotcha. So she's dumb like a fox. Gypsy.
Yes, correct. Gypsy's very smart. Yes.
Okay.
Gypsy's very smart. And now dad and brother, or I think at least dad and his new wife I've seen him on the media multiple times. And I remember seeing him get back together with Gypsy and saying, you can come and live at my house. And our doors are always open to you. Yeah. And the psychologist in me jumped up and went, no!
Don't allow her to live with you. You're going to be dead next.
It's not that she doesn't deserve sympathy. She does for everything that she went through, but this is how she handled it. So she crossed a line that she can never come back from, and that has to be acknowledged. You can't just look at her and say she's a victim, she lashed out, this was her only opportunity or her only option, because it wasn't.
No,
that's too easy.
Do you think the courts took into consideration
she only
the
got 10 years.
whole thing, the abuse from the mother, and then of course wanting to get out of that lifestyle but not having any other way of doing so without Dee Dee dying?
Absolutely. She only got 10 years. She probably won't even do the full 10 years. And women don't do as harsh a sentence as men often do. But when you take account into how this went down, I think Gypsy is very smart. I think that if she can be turned around in the system, I hope she can, she could live a pro-social life and be a very successful person. And that is my hope for her.
This is all premeditated murder, though. This is first-degree murder.
And there is always a part of her, like it or not, because of what her mother was, that is going to be just unbelievably manipulative, because that's how she was raised. She doesn't know how to have a straightforward relationship with anybody. She's never done it. How is she supposed to get out of prison, and have a straightforward relationship with someone?
In a lot of ways, she was institutionalized long before she ever went to prison.
Ooh, well said. Yeah, she was. She never had a chance.
Bold stroke, Joel Sturgis.
Well, thank you. Once in a while, I have one of those.
I am pondering this. It's all very fascinating. It's so sad. It's really terrible. I was thinking, kind of going back to thinking about the degrees. One thing that's semi-random but occurred to me, so I just want to toss it out there. Not so much on the Munchausen side of things, but just on illness and how we treat illness emotionally. And there is always a tendency to reward the sick. And so sometimes my kids and wives have said, you are so unsympathetic. And I'm not. I absolutely am not. But I also don't ever want to reward illness, because you can see what direction that goes.
Yeah.
And I think it is because the mind is so powerful. I don't think there's any question that people who feel they get rewarded for being sick are simply going to be sick more often. And I'm not even talking about faking it. They're really going to be sick more often if they feel on a subconscious level, or certainly on a conscious level, that they're going to get more out of it. So while I've always tried to be and want to be and am sympathetic, when someone's sick and someone doesn't feel well, I also have always thought it was very important not to reward it. Sure. And oh my God, there was a point where I really thought, back to my mother again, after she had this really severe stroke, it's 3+ years ago now, she was in rehab for 6 months, a rehab facility for 6 months. And I'll tell you what, as she was starting to improve and starting to come out of it and starting to, regain a fair amount of functionality, I could see my dad had fallen into this trap where anything and everything that caused her any sort of discomfort, in other words, anything she complained about, well, that was out. And I said, no, you are so wrong. She has got to work. She's got to fight. is going to be uncomfortable. She had something terrible happen to her. Don't we want her to be the best she can be? Yeah. Don't we want her to improve? And finally, it took months and months and months, but finally my dad came around and said, yep, you were right about that one. Mm-hmm. You know, we want to be supportive, we want to be sympathetic, we want to be empathetic, but we don't want to encourage people to be ill, or in that case, you know, to be less able than they could be, even if it's uncomfortable. And, you know, life can be uncomfortable, but you got to fight and you got to work your way through it. So that's my thinking. It's a fine line, and you got to find that middle area where you're not, quote unquote, encouraging sickness by overreacting in a positive way, while of course still being supportive and sympathetic when people are genuinely sick. So you see it in kids, and boy, I know, you know, Clarissa, kids can be really manipulative.
You know, but that's the perfect age. I'm glad you brought that up. Like, that's the perfect age for parents to do something that in America is really outlandish. So brace yourselves. I'm being serious, because America is the home of the stiff upper lip, right? The whole John Wayne sort of mentality.
Tough.
That I mean, that has held on for many, many years, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, but that's the thing. Kids need more than just attention for being sick or when they get an owie or whatnot. There are times when a kid and an adult, myself included, just need to feel like we're being emotionally coddled because it was a really rough day.
Everyone needs a hug once in a while.
Yes, not just a hug. Like, you need to be treated like you are emotionally fragile. You need somebody to tell you that they love you no matter what. Like, you need to treat me like I can't handle anything tonight because I can't. I'm done for tonight. Like, we don't teach kids, let alone adults, how to do that. And I started at a very young age with my brother when he got an owie and he would overdo it, you know, like the crying where no tears are coming, you know, sort of the like, and I'm like, you're not, and I would ask him outright. I would say, you know, Jamie, does that still hurt anymore? And luckily he was a pretty honest kid, and he would be like, well, not really. And I'm like, but do you still want me to hug you because it feels good?
Yeah. And
he would nod and go, yeah, I want hugs. I want cuddles. And it taught him to ask for what he really wanted instead of continuing being sick.
Yeah, true. But
that's a very good answer.
It is. We're running short on time. I'd like to get your thoughts on the whole disorder as a whole. Is it on the rise, or is it diminishing? Where are we at with this disorder?
I'm worried that it is on the rise and that it is becoming like a Femme Fatale 2.0, like my post suggested, because people realize now that it's not just the sympathy that they can get, but it's money, it's gifts, it's a lot of different things because of like GoFundMe and all these social media things
and stuff like that.
Man,
yeah.
It opens up a world to you. Think of how many scams we've seen of people that claim somebody's sick and no one is.
Yeah.
Right.
Very true.
It's on the rise. Yeah,
very true. Even Facebook now offers something similar where you can donate money to worthy causes or worthy people.
Yeah, everybody doing it for their birthday or whatever. Yeah. But to me, it encourages, in some people, it encourages the worst in them.
And that's really sad. I mean, once money comes into that equation, though, that's where the real con artists show up. Because once there's a motivation, there's a financial motivation, a financial gain. But rather than just fulfilling the need for a hug, social media hug, like, oh, you poor thing, you're surviving this. Now we're talking meaningful cash. Some people in the millions. Look at all the money that the Spears lady got for everything.
Everybody got money for these things, and they don't even have to do it. Somebody else will go and set up a GoFundMe account for you, and you are blameless.
And then you have conspirators.
Yeah,
exactly. Then that whole thing, it's a slippery slope. It is a horrible thing, and it will continue, unfortunately, as long as there is a financial motivator. I don't see any end in sight.
I always tell people that it's good to give. It's good to be charitable, but give locally and give to people you know.
Yeah, exactly. Give to a charity that's local. You know they're doing the most good with the money. Until tomorrow night, guys, take care of each other, love each other. Make sure you tune in tomorrow night when we talk to Reverend Tim Shaw. Same time, same channel. Until then, check out thecriminalcode.com.
Thank you for listening to this edition of After Hours AM, and please remember to like us on Facebook and also follow us over on Twitter.